Welcome to Southern Sense Talk on Rumble. You are going to love Annie the Radio Chickadee Ubelis and her co-host, C.S. Bennett. You'll find them live here on Fridays from 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Date Time. Check out their website at Southern Sense, as in commonsense.net. It's that easy, southernsense.net. So sit back and relax. They're informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey.
Can't hear you. I still can't hear you, so If you can hear me, it means it must be on your end. There we go.
Okay. Well, it muted itself. I guess when I brushed my hair back. Anyway, welcome back to another adventure here on Southern Sense. I do have to apologize. The last few days have been a little bit hard on me. I had a procedure done yesterday, and it's had taken everything out of me. So if I sound a little off and a little tired, I really am. So I do apologize for that. But we got ourselves a great show with my co-host, Hannah Davis of FAIRUS.org. We have Sal Litvak with us. He has a movie out called Guns N' Moses. He has a book. I think there's 2 books out. He has more than that. He also has a film called Saving Lincoln, before I forget that one. He has another film called When Do We Eat, which is a real fun comedy on Passover. And his book is called Let My People Laugh, the Great Jewish Jokes of All Time. But he also has a new one out. What the heck did I do with that? Let me pull it up. Let me pull it up and hear it. Oh, that's the movie, Guns N' Moses. And the other one here is Let My People Laugh. Yeah, I thought I got everything.
Yeah,
I'm not that bad.
I think I've seen this guy on like TikTok or Instagram or something. He's kind of funny.
Yeah, he's known as the Accidental Talmudist. So a Talmudist is someone who knows the Jewish law through the oh, good Lord, just another brain fart. Oh, geez. All right.
Was it a brain procedure?
No. No, I didn't have a brain procedure yesterday. No. Although I think I do need one.
Don't we all?
The Holy Book, which is actually our first.
The Torah?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's just one of those days. The brain's not completely functioning just yet. So we're going to have him to talk with. There's a lot to go over. And we have a couple of funny videos we're going to see if we can also put in here. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff that's going on with the elections. And you, Hannah, have a lot of stuff going on over at FAIR.
We do.
You've got the Immigration Council you recently came up with. And I was scribbling down my notes. You've been doing a lot of investigations on the voting procedures and irregularities. And people don't think about this, but illegal immigration on our banking system.
Yes. We launched an investigation on debanking illegal aliens because, I mean, as it stands now, most federal-backed banks will allow you, regardless of immigration status, to open up a bank account.
Well, I got a little insight on that for you, too, because this goes back more than 3 decades. So I must have something clicking in and out. But this goes back, the banking issue goes back 3 decades. And I'll tell you why I know that. Why there's certain banks that I will do business with. And everyone goes, oh, well, they're giving such great rates. So there's a little inside info on this one. So we have a lot to talk about and a lot to do. You got any insight before I give the dedication?
We're really excited at FAIR for the new Immigration Council. I know you just touched on it. We at FAIR, under new leadership, we have 4 pillars that we like to push upon people, and that's litigation, legislation, education, and investigations. And I'm the investigations manager, so that's kind of my ballpark. But all four pillars work together to keep and uphold the concepts that FAIR likes to push. And we're excited. This new immigration council is filled with great minds, great thinkers that all have very different immigration related backgrounds. For example, Mark Morgan, the former commissioner of Customs and Border Protection, is on the Immigration Council. And what they're going to be doing is working with FAIR's board and FAIR's upper leadership to continue to push what we want in those four pillars across the finish line. So educating people, whether it be through workshops or through our products, what we create. Of course, continuing with investigations like I do. You mentioned the banking report. That'll be an investigation that should be coming out later this year. And of course, working on the Hill with our GR department and legislation, and then litigation if needed. We do sue people and take different jurisdictions to court when needed. And so we're excited for the Immigration Council. I think it's going to give us a fresh outlook and a lot of different insight from various people's backgrounds that'll only help us more.
Well, I recognize a lot of names on it. There's also someone that's a friend of this show. So I'm going to see if I can try to get her to come back on and help talk to you about what is going on and where we want to see this all going towards. So I have the inside information too.
Who's the friend? I'm curious.
No, you'll find out in a little bit. Got to keep everyone hanging.
All right, keep me on my toes.
All right, those that watch and listen to the show here, and we are all over the place, including on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, as in Southern Sense. I can't get it going on to the Beaufort Tea Party yet. We are also up on Substack, and Substack
Rumble
does not have it, and Rumble, but Rumble's not doing. I'm sorry, Rumble is Substack's not doing it. I don't know what's going on with that. It's disconnected for some reason. I'll have to check that and get it up running on Substack later today. And we're also on our homepage.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm also working on updating the homepage. I haven't had time with that, but there's going to be a new major overhaul. So hopefully I can then get those videos to stay permanently on our homepage.
Right.
You don't have to go searching for them anywhere else.
Yeah.
Because we're carrying, I think, in about 24 audio outputs, including Spotify, iHeart, Buzzsprout, who also sends it out to all these other areas too. So we're all over the place audio-wise.
We really are.
And if I can get them up on our homepage and drive more traffic to our homepage. So if they don't have a social network that they're doing, like either YouTube or Facebook or something like that, they can just simply go straight to our homepage.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully I'll have that up and running soon. I just got to get a hold with.
If our viewers look closely, if they go outside, they'll see a big blimp, and we're on that as well. So we're everywhere at all times. So yeah, no, that'll be exciting. A lot of our base probably doesn't use social media, or even if they have an account, they don't use it that often. And so it's nice to have one home base, headquarters, if you will, to go and look back at old shows or to clip pieces that you like. And yeah.
Well, in that case, what we're also trying to do is that not only just on the internet on your computers and laptops, but have it on your smart devices too. So if you've got one of the smartwatches or a cell phone or something like that, you can pull it up.
Yeah.
Or just plug it through your car Bluetooth connection and
there you go.
Watch and listen on that too. Well, don't watch if you're driving. Just
don't watch. Just listen. I remember I have to admit, a couple years ago, back when I was with Heritage, I was running late to back in the day before you had the visual element. And so you would call in, right? And I was running late, and I was in my car. I hadn't gotten home yet. And so I was doing the hit with you while I was driving. And I was reading my notes, and I was like, oh, God. But it went over well. And look where I am today. So
folks, do not emulate what Hannah did. Yeah. Do not do that.
Don't do as I say and don't do as I do.
And also, we have a QR code up there that you can scan. And the QR code will actually take you to our StreamYard feed. So you're going to actually see the real feed in real time as we are doing the broadcast.
Nice.
And I do believe it can take you to some of the other prior shows, but they only let you keep just so much in storage.
Right.
So it only goes a couple of months back. So that's why
and they're long shows. So you can't store them all. So yeah, it'd be nice to have like I said, a headquarters. So this is exciting.
Yeah. Like I said, it's all a work in progress. So please don't expect it up tomorrow. It's not going to happen.
I'm watching the clock.
Yeah, well, since I'm chief cook and bottle washer, that's why it's taking a little longer than normal. Oh, God, you're making me laugh. I'm starting to feel better. That's a good thing.
Good.
All right, well, those that watch the show know that we do a dedication. And the dedication today is going to go out to Reserve Deputy. And a Reserve Deputy is not a full-time deputy. It's someone who volunteers their time, which makes this all the more poignant. A Reserve Deputy Constable, Heather Avery of Jefferson County. The Jefferson County's Constable Office in the 1st Precinct in Texas. Her end of watch was Friday, April 24th of this year.
DPS tells us this crash happened just before 8 this morning along I-10 East near mile marker 830. They say that an off-duty reserve deputy was helping with traffic control when an 18-wheeler slammed into her car. The off-duty reserve deputy has been identified as 48-year-old Heather Avery with the Jefferson County Constable's Office, Precinct 1. Texas DPS says she was inside a 2022 Ford Explorer parked in the outside lane with red and blue emergency lights activated. Troopers say that's when an 18-wheeler traveling eastbound crashed into the back of her SUV, killing her at the scene. We're told the driver of the 18-wheeler, 30-year-old Murphy Smith from Dickinson, was not injured. DPS says this loss reminds them how dangerous the job is, and they want to urge people to stay focused when driving.
They were getting ready to close the outside lane and set some pylons out, and she was getting the traffic to move to the left-hand lane so they could close the right-hand lane. Tell folks to minimize the distractions in the vehicle. I'm not sure why the truck driver didn't see him, but we have a lot of people operating a motor vehicle on a public roadway distracted.
At this time, DPS tells us this crash remains under investigation. Reporting in Chambers County, Leslie Delaspore, Fox 26 News.
All new tonight, we're hearing from Jefferson County Constable Javon J.C. Pollard about the loss of Deputy Heather Avery after she was tragically killed this morning in a crash on I-10 in Chambers County. Good evening, I'm Cladra Rhodes. We'll hear from Nick later. Constable Pollard said Heather Avery joined her office last year and says she quickly made an impression. Avery, who had about 4 to 5 years of law enforcement experience, stood out for her expertise in firearms and her commitment to helping others, particularly women, learn self-defense. Constable Pollard described her as an avid shooter and a firearms expert whose knowledge was unmatched. Avery regularly sought opportunities to improve herself, recently completing advanced firearms training that only a small number of officers achieve. Constable Pollard said her drive to grow made her proud as both a colleague and a leader.
You know, people like Deputy Avery are what makes our job shine. Law enforcement a lot of time gets a bad rap, but when you have personalities like Deputy Avery who are willing to go above and beyond, who are willing to answer a call, you know, in the evening if you have a question about whatever.
Constable Pollard says Avery's dedication, skill, and personality made a lasting impression on everyone she worked with, calling her loss heartbreaking for both her family and the department.
Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, we led with grace. Let it be seen, from sea to shining sea, beautiful America, living our legacy. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us be known as people of honor, humble and bold, faithful through fire. Let us hold firm to our convictions with wide open hearts. when our time has come. We gave them hope, we made them strong. Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, yeah, we led with grace. Sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other, oh, for the soul of the nation, for oh, the next generation.
Okay, and we're back. You're here watching Southern Sense live, in some cases, or listening live. And you can find us also at southernsense.net, along with my co-host who's going, all right, how much more is she going to screw up this show? Anna Davis of the Investigations Manager for FAIR, the Federation for American Immigration Reform, which you can find at fairus.org. Hey, I got that all in one mouthful.
Good on you.
Oh man, talking about immigration, which we've got lots to talk about. This is something that we've been discussing, and I know I've discussed it with you when you were with Heritage as well as now with FAIR, is this constitutional loophole that allows a multi-billion-dollar tourism industry here in the United States. And it's basically selling the citizenship to our nation away to billions of outsiders who can come back as an adult and control our nation by getting into elected offices, becoming elected presidents, abolishing our Constitution, and taking whatever freedom that we have ever known and had truly in this world away.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we at FAIR, I led a report on birthright citizenship, and mainly the focus was on birth tourism, which is adjacent to birthright citizenship. It only exists because of birthright citizenship. And I'm still eagerly awaiting for the Supreme Court to decide what they're going to do. They said that would be coming, their decision would be coming sometime in June. June's just around the corner. So time has flown. This year has gone by pretty quickly. But birthright citizenship in and of itself is very interesting, Annie, because it kind of serves at the intersection of not only immigration, but constitutional interpretation and national security vulnerabilities. And so what people have done is they've taken birthright citizenship and how generous we are with it, which allows anybody who's born on U.S. soil and subject to the jurisdiction thereof to be considered a citizen. And that's been wildly abused. We've got people who are purposely coming here, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to do so, knowing that they have jurisdiction to another nation, that they pledge allegiance to another jurisdiction. But because of this weird loophole and because of the way things are being interpreted currently, their child becomes a U.S. citizen. And down the road, they can sponsor family members, at the age of 21, and chain migration compounds upon itself. They also get access to benefits, taxpayer-based and government-based benefits. And a lot of the time, some of these individuals don't leave. They don't go back to their home countries. They stay here because they have an anchor baby in and of itself. That's the term. And so, birthright citizenship, I think the framers' intent with the amendment in the Constitution was not to allow what is happening today. I think their intention was much more narrowed in scope. They wanted to allow people who had been previously enslaved under the U.S. government to receive their rightful citizenship here in America. And it did that. And then as years go by and things kind of just get shelved, the interpretation did as well. And so that what the framers intended is no longer the case. Right now, like I said just a minute ago, we've got this blanket interpretation where if you're born here, you are a citizen. And so, yeah, there's been a really insidious birth tourism industry that has metastasized across not only our nation, but it's a global market. It's insane. People pay, collectively millions and millions and millions of dollars to come to the U.S. just to give birth.
Well, it's interesting because I've been following this all along, and having about 7 copies of the Constitution in my desk in front of me and a couple more strewn around the house.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a constitutional scholar. I do not know it verbatim, front and back, but there are certain key areas that I am constantly aware of. And the 14th Amendment, 14th Amendment, correct? Mm-hmm. For the birthright citizenship. When the committee was putting this together and they were discussing how to make it, they didn't have originally in the first draft subject to the jurisdiction within.
Right.
That was eliminated because they're thinking what's happening here today. They weren't thinking of happening down the road.
Mm-hmm.
They were thinking of only correcting the ills that happened that caused slavery in the United States. And now we have all these slaves and their descendants here. So what do we do? Right. I mean, we allowed them to voluntarily leave, and there were certain immigrations that brought up created the country of Liberia off the coast of Africa on the Ivory Coast. And there were some ways to help them settle somewhere else or stay here. I didn't say they're always the best intention, but something was being done. So when you thought about it, like, okay, that's the fix for this specific situation. And someone turned around and thought, oh, wow, what happens down the road? Because we no longer have slavery, but what does happen if someone's born here and is not a citizen? And they thought about this. Therefore, they put in the phrase, subject to the jurisdiction therein.
Yeah.
So people coming over here on a tourist visa, they are not claiming residency here in the United States. It's not a permanent residency, so it's not a legal residence. It's a temporary hotel or whatever, what do they want to call it? They come, they go back home. They are citizens of whatever country they left to come here. Yeah. And you have those that come in here illegally. They're not coming here to become a legal citizen because they've entered illegally. They committed a crime coming across that border.
I'd like to add that some of the people who come here, the majority of people who come here legally on a tourism visa are pregnant, and they conceal their pregnancies. They lie on their visa applications to get here. So throughout the whole entire system, whether you present yourself as a legal tourist visa applicant or someone who crosses the border illegally, it's all riddled with fraud.
Yeah, and that itself, because on our visa applications, I do believe recently they changed it that if you were pregnant, you had to state how long you were pregnant. Mm-hmm. And some airlines would not even allow you get on the plane because they didn't want to have you give birth in the middle of the sky.
Yeah.
They didn't want that legal responsibility of worrying about that the mother and then the newborn child or children, if she has more than one, like a kitten or two. I'm sorry, not trying to be flip about this, but it recently happened on an airline coming over New York and landing in JFK. Newark, and gave birth just prior to landing, which brings into question, did she give birth within U.S. territorial?
Right. Well, I think she was a U.S. citizen, wasn't she?
No, she was not.
Oh, well, there we have it.
So that gives another question too, so being legal jurisdiction thereof, you come here illegally, you're not a subject of you're not a citizen of our country, much less a legal resident. Right. You're here illegally, you cannot be. So again, if you're on a tourist visa or a diplomatic visa, you're subject to the country that you originally came from, that you are subject to. Now, I want to state subject as well as citizen, two completely different things, and people don't realize it's two completely different things.
Mm-hmm.
Our nation is the first to recognize a citizen, not a subject. A
Right.
subject is, you have to, whatever the flavor of the day the ruler is saying, or dictator or czar or whatever you want to call it, is saying, you must obey.
Mm-hmm.
Here as citizens, we have a voice in our government as a citizen. We are all on an equal playing field.
Yes.
So then anything that happens in our nation, we have a voice in.
Yeah.
If we don't like what the leadership is doing, we can say something and change it.
That's what's beautiful about America, the electoral process. You know, we have a right that the pendulum swings between presidential and state and local administrations because of the will of the voter. And so we have a right to change things. And the current administration has a right to change things as well. They were duly elected. They have supremacy according to the Constitution. And that's why we're here at this birthright citizenship, you know, kind of the pinnacle of it all. The climax of it all, because the Trump administration sued the federal government and said, hey, this needs to be interpreted again. So it'll, like I said, it comes down soon. Sometime next month is what people are alleging that the opinion's going to come out. I check every day. You know, I keep getting the notifications on my phone, Supreme Court rules. And, and it's like a ... like an ellipses. And so I click in, it's always that one on birth control or the abortion pill or something. And I'm like, no, I don't care about that one. I want the other one. I need to know when they're going to rule. But, you know, people are cracking down on this. ICE, underneath ICE is HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, and they've been cracking down, targeting networks that facilitate visa fraud, global networks, and that they coordinate with domestic networks as well. Because a lot of birth tourism, as we both mentioned earlier, starts off with fraud, because these ladies are pregnant. They know what their intentions are, to come here illegally, to lie on the visa application. They're not just a tourist. They're here to give birth, and so they get put up in these luxury hotels, and there's just it's such a money maker. You know, I mean, there are people who have websites and their entire careers are travel agents, but instead of going to Disney, they're getting you here from Russia so you can give birth. And so HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, is cracking down on a lot of these global operations, and it'll be interesting to see in the coming years, or, you know, the coming months. They'll probably put out a report, and it'll highlight just how global this market is and how calculated it is. It's not like people are coming here on accident giving birth. It's very calculated.
When I was explaining citizenship and subject, you know, the 14th Amendment says you're subject thereof of the jurisdiction. That's completely different than when I'm talking about what country you have your allegiance to, whether you're a citizen here in the United States or a subject of another country. That's two different things. So when they wrote that saying you're subject of the jurisdiction, meaning that as a legal resident or a legal citizen, you fall underneath the Constitution. And those laws that are built here into the United States to protect the citizenship and the legal residence of, those are your laws. That is what you have your allegiance to. But if you are a subject of another country, you are not subject to our jurisdiction. That means the other country can recall you, and the other country can say, wait a minute, no, that's our citizen, you know, send them back, or whatever. You know, but you have your allegiance to the country, you are subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So if you're from Spain, that's your jurisdiction. If you are here born in the United States, this is our jurisdiction. And the two are two completely different things. So people see jurisdiction and subject, and they're confusing the two. Or they are using the definition of the two.
I think they're purposely being obtuse. You know, I think the framers, the way they wrote it, it's clear. It's clear as day. I think over time we've let things slide, and we've become purposely derelict in constitutional interpretation. You know, people are, you know, it's been happening for so long, we've got to keep it going. Like, no, we can put a pin in it. We can nip it in the bud at any moment. And so hopefully that's what the Supreme Court does. I mean, there's going to be some justices that out the door already knew that they were going to side against the current administration. But I think a few of them have their heads screwed on correctly and may decide differently. But also, you know, if you read the 14th Amendment, it's quite short. But if you read the history behind the framers' intent, it's not. You know, they've got primary documents that show, you know, what their intentions were. And someone who his name is, it's leaving me right now, but one of the main drafters of the 14th Amendment wrote in his own writing that this, of course, would not be aliens. This would not be people who are not naturalized U.S. citizens. And the way he wrote it was almost like, duh, like, of course, this. So, and he kind of put it in the margins somewhere on his personal diary or whatever. And now that's considered a primary document. He didn't think to put it in the 14th Amendment because it was understood to be so obvious. We're not granting citizenship blanketly to anybody who could get here on a boat. And so I think the wild interpretation that we have now, they would roll over in their graves. We didn't have planes. They didn't know that people could take a flight from Shanghai to the Mariana Islands and give birth and then be a U.S. citizen in 5 hours. They could not. They would have blown their minds. And so what's happening now is just like such a calculated abuse of the system that we've let slide for too long, because what the framers, it was obvious to them, and they were very specific about some things too. It excluded certain Native American tribes too, because at the time they were considered non-Americans because they wanted to be non-Americans. They were very gung-ho about the fact that, no, I'm on tribal land. I'm not an American. I belong to so-and-so tribe. And that was their prerogative, and that's fine. And that's kind of changed as time has gone on as well. But no, I think they were clear as day. And if you look at their the writings that are associated with the 14th Amendment, the framers made it very clear that this wasn't supposed to include illegal aliens. And unfortunately now it has. And I'd really like to know what case it was, or around what decade it was, that things just started shifting and how we just let it slide. And I've read some previous Supreme Court rulings on it all, but I want to know who was the first who got away with it, who set the precedent.
Hang on a second. It was in the 1800s. Yeah, and it was a major case, and people keep referring to it. United States versus Wum Kim Ark. And let me see, it was 1873. See, I got to steal track.
The Wum Kim Ark. I'm not convinced that's the first one. I'm not convinced, because I know about the Ark case. I'm not convinced that's the first one. I have a that's the first Supreme Court, ruling.
That was the pivotal one, and everyone refers to that, but they don't refer to the entire case.
Yeah, they
because they recognize the fact that the Supreme Court said in that argument, his family was brought here involuntarily, just like the slave owner. And
that's a muddy case.
It is a very muddy case. But as they were brought here involuntarily, and they were actually, basically enslaved labor for building the railroads, this child was born here in the United States. So because they were forced here in some sort of slavery, we've already abolished slavery, but we recognize this wrong.
Yes, it's a really muddy case. I know I just said that, but I mean, that doesn't even underscore how muddy it really is. I mean, people on both sides of the constitutional argument who are pro and anti birthright citizenship have used that case in their favor. They think when they're writing, their legalese, or, that they submit to the court, because that's how muddy the case is. It can be interpreted either way. I know we at FAIR have used it in our favor. People at the ACLU have used it in their favor. And it really it boils down to what the Supreme Court's going to say. But that's one of the most pivotal ones. But I do know that there's probably thousands of people who have come before that court ruling came down under the nose of the federal government, and we'll never know. Much like the Gotaways under the previous administration, we'll never really be able to truly know. And so it's just something keeps me up at night sometimes, but it's a hard timeline to write down. It's like, that's the most pivotal case back then, but when did it start?
Yeah, that's the curious thing. But the danger, and people going, all right, fine. You got a couple of people that gave birth here in the United States. What's the big deal? It's not a couple of people. It no longer is. And it, as you said, it's a multi-billion-dollar business, but we honestly do not know the exact number or who was here. Because when it came to birthright citizenship, the birth tourism, to be correct, birth tourism came here. The hospitals, mostly in California, where most of the major tourism was going to, did not register the parentage of the child.
Right.
And they listed the child as being an American. And there's nothing about where the parents came from. So now we have we have maybe millions of these babies that were brought back to China, only grew up underneath the communist China regime, have their allegiance to the communist China regime, and yet somewhere along the way they're going to go and the communist government knows exactly who it was, where that baby is every moment of its day, because they're going to groom that child. And as that child, some of them are turning into adults now. And the communist government is saying, well, you're 18 years old. This is what we're going to do. We're going to send you back to the United States. You're going to claim yourself a U.S. citizen. You're going to get a college degree. You're going to work over here and here. We're going to get you into the political system. And another 10 years from now, you're running for president of the United States. And you are a Chinese communist spy.
Yeah. Or like that lady who recently, she was a mayor. What town? And she had allegiance to the Chinese.
Arcadia.
Yeah. Shocker, right? She had allegiance to the Chinese Communist Party. Her husband had recently been indicted for the same thing about a year or so ago. And yeah, I would really, really, really like to know her immigration status. Did she come here as a child? Was she an anchor baby? Did she have dual citizenship? Who knows? Is she even here lawfully? So, but what we do know is that she held allegiance. She was subject to the jurisdiction thereof of China and the Chinese Communist Party. And it didn't work. Fortunately, it didn't work out in her favor. But how many people do you think on our job sites, in our education system, in our healthcare system, in our military system, that it is working in their favor? That nobody knows, and they're spies.
Well, I had the article here because I do another podcast on Wednesdays called Moms Across America. And this is one of the things we discussed. And I believe her last name was Wang. And I think she was a naturalized citizen, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
But she had direct affiliation to the Chinese Communist Party. She had sworn allegiance to them at naturality. And this was between 2020 and 2022. If we go back a few years, do you remember when the Chinese, we were having some sort of games going on in California, and they had this whole big Chinese delegation coming to California. They rolled out the red carpet and the parties and everything else. And this was at the height of COVID going on at the same time, I believe. And they made a big to-do. And there was a huge promotion all through California, and they tried to do this nationwide, promoting Chinese.
Interesting.
And
I don't remember that, but it seems on par with the current administration at that time.
And at that point, it was starting to come to light, the attacks on the Falun Gong in Chinese communism. And I'm probably going to say this wrong. The Fen Shui, it is a dance group, a theatrical group where they come and do traditional, prior to communist China, their dances, their
is it Shin Yun some?
Yeah, I do apologize. Yeah.
Back when I lived in Maryland, right, and I worked right outside of DC, I would see the billboards all the time, and my friends would be like, "We should go," and then we looked into it, and we were like, "That's a cult. We're not going." So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I wanted to go with my sister-in-law, and they were down in Savannah, and I didn't get a chance to go. Things didn't work out.
Apparently, their funding goes back to the Chinese Communist Party. So, if we're talking about the same one.
No, they're being chased. Every time they go to perform, the Chinese communists try to prevent them from performing.
Then I'm thinking about a different one. But yeah, so apparently I've learned today that the Chinese have multiple touring dance groups. And which one do we trust? Who knows?
Exactly. Yeah, I know exactly that. Yeah, but I do know that this one, every time they do sign up to perform somewhere, they throw roadblocks in front of them any which way they can. And some municipalities will bend to it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the sad thing.
It's like White Knights.
We don't even know. Yeah. We don't know. We have
movie?
Yeah. I don't remember much of it, but I do remember the name and seeing it. But there's so much more to talk about on this one. But birthright citizenship, that is a major, major problem. And I noticed Trump is going after certain agencies within our government, ICE, voter registration, a few other things, trying to weed out people that are not truly here legally or have some questions about their citizenship and denaturalizing them and everything. So we're starting to make a little headway. We're aware of what the problem is, but I'm sorry, the horse is out of the stable. I mean, it's running amok.
Yeah.
And we don't know how many millions of them will come and harm our nation.
I think it's an effort to restore integrity to our legal immigration system, which is also something that the current administration is focusing on. You know, regardless of who's ever in the White House, legal immigration gets ignored a lot. It's a messy and long process. And a lot of the time, people who come here legally and have gained legal status and become naturalized U.S. citizens who can vote and serve in our military, etc., a lot of the times their crimes go unnoticed. And so what the DOJ is doing is targeting criminals that are kind of the worst of the people who have gained citizenship. And so I think what a lot of people know, like if you and I commit a crime, our citizenship is never going to be brought into question. You know, we could go to jail for the rest of our lives.
Unless the citizenship, no, but if it's a felony, then in many states you lose the right to vote.
To vote, yes. Of which I think, you know, I have my opinions on that, but you know, but like if you go murder someone, Annie, I mean, you're going to go to prison, right? But you're not going to ever have to worry about your citizenship being revoked.
No.
People who come here and were not born here, who gain citizenship, if they commit a crime, their citizenship can be revoked. And so what the DOJ has been doing is filing these lawsuits against individuals and the jurisdictions that are harboring them, who are U.S. citizens, but they're revoking their status because of heinous crimes. I mean, these people didn't just run a red light. I mean, we've got people, you know, they've been convicted of terrorism. They've been accused of child molestation. I think, you know, back in 2025, we did this. You know, this is something the administration's been doing. And so they've just recently released a report, or I guess a press release, saying that they're going to start doing it again, and they've got some people in mind. But last year they were wildly successful with it. There was a Maryland man who lost his citizenship. You know, he's a previous immigrant because he sexually assaulted a minor. There was a British man who was distributing child porn, and he lost his citizenship, and they, you know, took him back over to England, where he was from, after he served his time here. And there was a Venezuelan woman who had like defrauded the Medicare system of over $5.4 million. So these people are doing some, like, you know, eye-opening white collar crimes, or really, really egregious, nasty crimes. And so they deserve to have their citizenship status revoked. And so I think it's a good thing that the administration is looking into people who, you know, for all intents and purposes are U.S. citizens, but the way they came here means that, you know, they can be denaturalized at any time, depending on what crimes they've committed. And so hopefully the DOJ continues to do this, and it kind of sets a precedent. Like, hey, just because you came here the right way doesn't mean you can also commit crimes. I mean, we'll kick you out. So,
but they're also looking into the applications to see whether if they lied on the application, if they did the previous history that they did not disclose.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just that. It's like, even if you lied on the application, we're now going to revoke it. We mentioned a little bit earlier the U.S. banking system, and I got a little story to tell. This is long before my late husband and I moved here, when I was still living in New York. And Bank of America, I will never, ever, ever do business with them. What they did when it became known that we had a large influx of illegals back in the late 80s, early 90s, and just remember who was president back then, and we had a large influx. Bank of America openly advertised to illegal immigrants that they can get a credit card from them.
Interesting.
Now, how do you get a credit card without having a bank account? So in other words, that means they're going to offer them a bank account with a credit card account.
By incentivizing these illegal aliens, it delegitimizes citizenship. It's almost saying like, hey, here's an incentive for coming here illegally. You know, why would you do it the right way if when you're here you're greeted with gifts?
Yeah, and after we moved here, which was back in 2001, it was a few years later that Bank of America rescinded the offer. They rescinded the public from knowing about
public offer.
So for me, if you've got a bank that large and openly advertises and also goes, oops, we made a mistake, that does not tell me that the corporate mentality changed or the corporate policies changed. It just turns around and tells me I still do not trust them. But in
Right.
your investigation, how many more of these did you see?
Oh, well, the investigation's not out yet. We did a press release saying, "Hey, this is what we're looking into." I have sent numerous FOIA requests, Freedom of Information Act requests to different federal agencies like the Department of Treasury, like FinCEN, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network within the Department of Treasury. Weird organizations most people may have never heard of, like the OCC, the Office of the Comptroller. These federal agencies that oversee banking practices. There you go. And so what we've done is we've started this investigation. A lot of these agencies aren't willing to make it easy on me. I send off these FOIA requests. I go to bed and I'm like, I'm going to wake up to answers, And no, they push back. They extend their timelines, or they say, hey, I need you to narrow the scope of your request, or why do you want this? That's a popular one. And I don't have to explain why, because I have the right to ask for this information. And so, it becomes a time consuming process, these big long form research projects, because there's a waiting game, and I go back and forth with these agencies. But what I'm looking into is their practices. If you have someone is an illegal alien and they're trying to open up a bank account or a credit line, how do you know how do you know if they're legal or not? Do you even differentiate? Do you care? Do you flag them? Do you look into their history? Do you vet them? Are they connected to any criminal enterprises? I mean, they're already here illegally, right? And so are they connected to any cartels, any sex trafficking? Where's this money going to go? Are they sending all of it back to Mexico? Are you guys going to collect money on those fees? Are they going to fentanyl producers in China? Like, do you even care to vet? What are your procedures? What do you do when they produce, identification? When you ask for an identification or proof of address, and their proof of address goes back to a storage unit, or their proof of identity is a foreign document, what do you do? Do you flag it? And so those are the questions I'm asking these banking agencies like the FDIC and things like that, and hoping that they'll get back to me with honest, fruitful answers that I can use to then look through it all and create a report. And so what we did at FAIR is we let the public know this is what we're looking into. We've sent off the FOIA request, and right now we're in the waiting game. We're waiting for people to get back to us with some information. But I think it's going to answer itself if they don't respond. A lot of the agencies don't want to respond, and that in and of itself says enough.
Well, it's a total of 9 FOIAs you sent out to different agencies. Mm-hmm. But so people understand that there's a customer identification program, the CIP. And under that, the Bank Secrecy Act exists, as well as the Patriot Act exists. Mm-hmm. And everyone remembers the Patriot Act when George Bush came in right after 9/11. And I'm not a big fan of the Patriot Act. However, there's certain aspects of it that does protect us as American citizens.
Yeah.
And if people do not do the proper vetting, as you said, about underneath the identification program and under the Patriot Act, how do we know whether or not we are giving this bank account to a known enemy of these United States?
Yeah. And also it begs the question, why? Even if this guy comes back clean as a whistle, he's here illegally. Why are you incentivizing that? You know what I mean? It makes no sense. Why are you so willing to give a credit line to an illegal alien that may or may not have stable work history? So it's really weird. And so in and of itself, it should be illegal. And that's why the administration, there hasn't been a lot of talk on it, but the administration has said that they're trying to debank illegal aliens. They're looking into these practices as well. So I'm kind of working in tandem while people at the White House are kind of doing the same thing, and see if we can make the public a little bit more aware about this. But yeah, I think it just, brings into question their motives in and of itself.
I want to remind the listeners too, because if you remember at one point, there was a whole big to-do about illegal aliens, and actually migrants, I should say that correctly. Migrant workers would come here and they would make so much money. They would go to the Western Union, which doesn't exist anymore, in the local grocery store or bodega or whatever, and they'd send that money home, whether it was somewhere in South America, Central America, in the Middle East. India was a huge, huge recipient of these funds. So they said, we don't want this much money leaving the United States. We want it to stay in our economy. So they put limits on it. And at one point it was $10,000. But now when you do a transaction on your private personal banking account over $600, you and I, as a legal citizen, will be flagged.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you, if you have these illegal accounts, flag it in the illegal account when you can't trace back to the actual person?
Yeah, I mean, it common sense question right there, Annie. And so those are the answers we're trying to get. And I think to combat the amount of money wires that are going around the globe daily, we state and local jurisdictions have tried. They fought really hard to follow Oklahoma's footprint. Oklahoma, I believe, and one other state. The other state just passed it, but Oklahoma has been a trailblazer in this regard. They, for a long time, were the only state that taxed remittances. So that's the money that a migrant or an illegal alien, or you and I really, would send to an individual in another country. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words with that one. And so I think it's like a flat 5%. And if they file their taxes, they get that money back. That's the rub. And so, yeah, I think.
What do you care? If you're here illegally, you're not going to file taxes anyway.
They're not going to file taxes. So, but I think, that's the rub. If other states followed suit and started putting a percentage tax on the remittances that are sent over, that money could stay in the U.S. economy. Because why are we allowing illegal aliens into the nation? Why do they get to work under the table, make all this money? And it's one thing if we're going to allow all that. The least they could do is use that money in their local economy to help it boom, right? No, they're sending the majority of it overseas, where it goes a lot farther in India or Siberia, and we don't see any of it. So we deserve to tax some of it, so some of it stays in the local economy. And so it's insane. Yeah, if you look at reports on remittances data, the U.S., we send so much out, and it actually helps the GDP of other countries significantly. Like, it's insane.
Oh, you mean like Somalia had got whole suitcases load of money going through customs, and customs doesn't stop it.
If we weren't sending money,
Somalia,
if we weren't sending money to all these countries, a lot of countries across the globe would collapse. Definitely. So we deserve the right. We reserve the right too to tax some of that money to keep it here in our economy.
Well, our guest will be calling in very shortly, signing in or whatever. But I want to talk about the Immigration Council that you just came up with. Just less than even 2 weeks ago, you posted the article up on FAIR, which people can find it, fairus.org. And tell us, what is this council and what's its critical mission?
It's to push and drive the FAIR agenda is a negative term, but what we want for society. What we want people to be educated on the impacts of immigration, whether it be legal or illegal. We want people on the Hill through our government relations efforts to understand that, don't just sign that bill, really read it, see what it does to the American constituent, see what it does to the average migrant. And so what the Immigration Council really does is work in cahoots or in tandem with the upper leadership of FAIR and FAIR's board. We're a nonprofit, so we have a board. And so for the longest time, it was just upper leadership and the board going back and forth and developing what's best for our organization. But now we've got this Immigration Council filled with people with great minds, really, really good backgrounds in terms of immigration. And they're going to bring a lot of thought and a lot of interesting ideas to the table that we can push across the finish line. These are all people who believe in borders, people who believe in interior enforcement, people who believe that there should be laws that should be followed and new bills should be passed in regards to immigration, legal or illegal. And so it's going to be a good time. We at FAIR, we have 4 pillars. I mentioned this at the top of the show, but it's investigations, litigation, education, and
I had it here.
Don't tell me.
Litigation, legislation, investigations, education.
Education. There we go. I missed one of those.
See? I still trapped.
I'm still getting educated. And so what we do, and when you think of education, it's all the product that we put out. And with the help of the new Immigration Council, we're going to have a lot more insight, a lot more ideas. People throw in, spitballing different ideas back and forth, and we can use those to do research projects. We can use those in the media We can talk about those ideas like with you, like during media hits and things like that. And investigations, that's what I do. I'm the investigations manager. We look into different jurisdictions that are or are not abiding federal immigration laws, and we write reports on them. We call them out. And a lot of the times we take our work and send it over to litigation where they sue the socks off of those people because they're derelict of duty. You can't just ignore federal immigration law, you know? And then the legislation aspect is, like I said earlier, GR, government relations. They go to the Hill, they work with these people. We talk about bills, whether they be in the House or the Senate, and about, you know, this is a good one or this is a bad one. This is why. And so all four of those pillars kind of work together like a well lubricated clock. And we're always ticking because of it. And so what this council is going to do is help us push those four pillars even further than before. Great minds, great insight, and I can guarantee we'll continue to have great work because of it.
Well, I'm looking at some of the names on here and their backgrounds. You stretch into a wide range of areas that do deal with immigration. People don't normally think that. We know about investigations. You know, those that are in law enforcement that you have on here, such as the Sheriff Matt, Sheriff Lamb, and a few others. You had some department heads dealing with immigration, such as Mark Morgan. You have judges on here. You have people that have actually worked in litigation and public relations. You have people that have worked in finance and know how this illegal immigration does affect our finances. So you're actually reaching out into different areas. It's not a narrowed one size fits all, but you're coming from different parts of our society, our political and economic areas within our nation to see how it's affecting it and what can they do to help us.
And you have to. Immigration is one of those policies that affects everything. You know, it affects healthcare, the education system. It affects our military. It affects, you know, our sovereignty as a whole. Well, first and foremost, right? And most importantly, it affects the environment. You know, even legal immigration affects the environment. More people, a weaker environment, right? Unless we do something about it. It affects everything. It affects our grid system. And so that's why when we were developing the Immigration Council, we wanted people from various backgrounds that had at the same time a really, really good understanding of immigration as a whole in their respective kind of niched out topics, their areas of expertise, because they're all going to be, you know, understanding of immigration and its impacts. But we need someone from each little, you know, subject matter to really come together. And so, because, yeah, unlike any other policy, immigration really does affect everything.
And one of the people you have on here is a ranch owner who lives on the border. So he has to deal with this every single day in his life. And we cannot forget, I believe it was now 2 years ago, the one rancher that went out just to check his property and was killed by an IED that an illegal immigrant placed in his property so they can cross through. You know, and my friend, and I told you this was the one, Dr. Carol Swain, who happens to be a good friend of the show, and who has been cited, I believe, 3 or 4 times by the Supreme Court. So she's not a small mind.
Smart cookie.
This woman she is a brilliant, brilliant woman. So people can check out what's going on by going to fairus.org. Look underneath the legislation as well as the news tabs to see what's going on. There's so much more, Hannah. We're going to go into down the road, the next show, with all this other stuff. Because I got a thick pile here just for you.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
And with that said, I cannot resist doing this. I've been staring at this the whole show. Sal Litvak. Good afternoon, Sal. I couldn't resist that. I've been looking at the entire show, and I think I got to find out where I can put that in there for you.
I like it.
Well, Sal, you put yourself down as the director of Guns N' Moses, and I actually made my husband, who happens to be a legal immigrant and citizen, sit through the movie.
And did he have fun?
Yeah, and you did this movie with your wife. I mean, there's so much more to talk to you about. I just want to get on to this one first. And I got to ask, when it came to the scenes of the wife shooting or the other women shooting, did she have a large hand in helping you write that part of the script?
You know what? My wife is a massive Second Amendment supporter, but she personally just doesn't like guns. They're too loud.
Go
She
figure.
finds them a little bit scary. And I
That's
have
me.
to drag her to the range so that she'll be safe around firearms that we have in the house.
Well, I have a friend that's like that. I keep on telling her, when I go to the range, you want to go, you just let me know. I'll help you through it. So no. Matter of fact, I took my husband to the range shortly after we had gotten married. And I took my service weapons, and I have a couple of other off duties, and I took them with me. So I go through my drill as I did through the academy, and I get myself, safe positioning, covering the heart, blah, blah, blah. And I'm doing mine. And these are revolvers I'm working with. So I'm using speed loaders too.
Okay.
And I'm going, he just put his gun case down, turned around, walked out. There's no way. No way.
I would probably react the same way, especially if I was freshly married. I kind of feel the same way as your wife, because I'm very pro-gun, but they're not for me. I don't even put air in my own tires because I'm afraid they're going to explode. So I always have this irrational fear that a gun will just go off and shoot me, even though no one's touching it. So I think it's kind of past a healthy fear or respect of guns. It's just a fear. So I do know the only way to get past that is to use one. But I've yet to do so. I shot one into a field.
And I totally understand what you're saying. I didn't grow up around guns. I came to it as an adult, and I feel comfortable around them. It's fun. It's a skill. It's a perishable skill. You really have to keep practicing it. My irrational fear is when I'm standing in the kitchen with a butcher knife. And I always make such a point. I taught my kids, it has to be pointed at the floor. It always has to be pointed at the floor. Because I feel like, God forbid, one day you're just holding that knife straight out, and somebody's going to turn around really fast when they're not looking or you're not looking, and run into the knife. And I don't know why it's such a paranoia of mine.
There's an Oprah special on that. There's an Oprah special on that for sure. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. It was kids. Yeah. So yeah, I have a little bit of a fear of knives too. I guess I'm just a scaredy cat.
Well, if you just look at it, that a knife as well as a firearm is a tool. It's not going to do anything unless you control it. And a knife can sit there on the counter forever. It's not going to jump up and stab someone. Same thing with a gun. If you just leave it sitting there on the table, it's not going to jump up and shoot someone unless someone picks it up. And once someone picks it up, that's when you become aware and sensitive. And I've always kept that mentality in my mind. And growing up, my family, we weren't around guns. Even though my father was an Army veteran, it wasn't until I was a young girl that I realized he kept one in his sock drawer to put in the laundry away. And there's this little 38 sitting there. It's like, okay, I know not to touch it. But the same thing with a knife or any sharp object. And it drives me crazy because my husband will hand me a pair of scissors point first.
Okay.
Okay, are you trying to tell me something here? So I'm getting it now to realize, turn them around and hand me by the handle. If I come lunging at you, then you better move. but those kinds of safety rules, people don't know them instinctively, right? And you have to learn them, and you have to train your children. And then in actually having a firearm. I mean, listen, right now, there's a lot of danger in the world. There's a lot of people who are getting guns who didn't own them before. They feel like things have gone too far, especially in our Jewish community. There's so much danger to the Jewish people in America. There's a lot of Jews who are getting guns for the first time. And as I travel with our movie, with Guns and Moses, and I'm also a member of this security force, Maganam, and I just say to everybody, listen, if you want to protect your family and your community and have a firearm, wonderful, that's great. But if you go to the gun store, buy that gun, come home, put it in a drawer, and think that you are now a protector, you are really mistaken, because it's a very difficult thing to use under pressure, to use safely, and it requires a lot of time. You've got to put in the time, go to the range, learn the safety rules, learn how it's used, and learn how to shoot when your adrenaline is racing, your heart is racing, and God forbid you ever need it. That's the situation you're going to be in. And if you don't have all those reps under your belt, you will not be able to use it effectively.
Well said. What is Guns and Moses about?
It is an action thriller, edge of your seat thriller. about a rabbi who becomes a detective after a murder in his small high desert community, and the cops won't investigate. He does, and as he gets closer to the source of the evil, the danger skyrockets, and he's got to learn how to use a firearm in order to protect his community. And unlike most Hollywood movies where an amateur needs to learn how to shoot, he doesn't put 5 tin cans on a fence, miss the first one, hit the next 4, and then he's a crack shot. He goes through real world firearms training, which people recognize, from the, armed forces or law enforcement community, that it's the real learning. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Let the bang surprise you. Sight picture, trigger press. But really, it's just one more plot point in the service of a very exciting, well-acted, well-written thriller. We're very proud of it. And it stars the legendary Christopher Lloyd, Mark Feuerstein, Neil McDonough, and Dermot Mulroney.
Where can you stream it?
Amazon Prime. It's available right now on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Other platforms too, but with subscription, it's free on Amazon Prime, where you'll also find my book, Let My People Laugh, Greatest Jewish Jokes of All Time. My best-selling book. I've gotten better at saying that.
Good for you.
Thank you, Hannah.
As I was watching it, you in the movie, you have him train his wife. And she goes on like, I don't want this. She's like, Hannah, I don't want to touch. But then he gets her to become comfortable, and with different firearms too at the same time. And he also did something that people are afraid of, to reach out beyond their own community. And he does this to a neo-Nazi, and in turn wins the guy over in the end, because he says, I have faith in you. I trust you. And he goes, I understand where you're coming from. And it becomes really fantastic in many areas, very touching. And says, listen, we can cross over our different communities, our different beliefs, and find common ground. But that's what America's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be a melting pot, not a tossed salad. And that's
and
what
it used to be that way. I mean, when we were growing up, right? I mean, like, we knew people who were different party than us, disagreed vehemently, but the disagreements were always about policy. How we can best make America succeed, how we can best ensure freedom for everybody, how we can best assure security for everyone. We're just arguing about the how. These days, people are so divided. It's like they can't even agree. I mean, we agree. The other side doesn't seem to agree that America's great, America's beautiful, America's an experiment worth preserving and putting our all into, defending, etc. It's weird how far afield some people have gotten. I think in part because of the information they're receiving from a really twisted and sabotaged and compromised legacy media, and in part from an educational system that has been sabotaged and compromised in the same way.
You're from New York. As you can tell from my dialect, I am also from New York, but I got to the South as soon as I could.
I'm not from New York.
Mazel tov.
Yeah.
But in the area I lived, you had different communities of different religious backgrounds, and we would intermingle. There were certain areas you just didn't ask too much about, because either you were afraid or someone drilled it into your head. You're Roman Catholic, so you don't care what they do over there. Just worry about your own stuff. But now we see what New York State has morphed into, and it's scary.
Oh my gosh.
And especially if you look at New York City. Now, I was there under Giuliani, and I see, and New York City in itself has the largest Jewish community in the world. And I'm sure you're very familiar with Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Yep.
And I worked with the Shomron Patrol there. I actually danced down the street singing Tea for Two with my nightstick on Lee Avenue with my partners.
So you were an NYPD, Annie?
Yes.
You're a police officer in NYPD? Wow, thank you for your service.
But I understood where they came from. And just prior to my retiring, we started to have a large growth of the Muslim community. And driving through Cyprus, coming off, they don't call it the Interborough Parkway anymore. It was at Jackie Robinson, I think now. You're coming off
Maybe.
of there.
I live in LA now. I don't remember.
There's a mosque that was right there. In New York, especially in New York City, did not have open carry. But going in, I would see these men walking there with rifles, openly carrying rifles slung over their shoulder. I'm going, how does this happen? When I started to ask questions, goes, well, we give them a certain leeway. And then we would get memos saying that if you're a female officer, you cannot enter the mosque if the radio runs there. And I saw it starting to morph. And what has given us now but Mendami? And you see a Muslim service in Times Square. I've never seen a Catholic service in Times Square. I've never seen a Baptist or Protestant. I've never seen a Jewish service there. And you're not going to, but you see a Muslim service and you see them stopping traffic to do their midday prayer. And I'm going, what has happened? What has happened?
Yeah, because while it might happen that a Jewish community will support a certain candidate, or a Catholic community or Protestant community because it's good for the community, our communities aren't trying to take over the world. And theirs is. I mean, they're not hiding it. This is not like, you know, we're scribing something to them that's not true. They have said they're trying to make the whole world be contained in the house of Islam, and they're willing to do that by the point of the sword. Now, not every Muslim subscribes to political Islam, but that's what Islam itself says. That's kind of just traditional Orthodox Islam. I'm no expert on it, but I think we're seeing it happen. And that's why you would never see, you know, like a prayer service taking over Times Square from any other religion, but you're seeing that now in every major city. It's a fascinating and scary and threatening joining of communism and political Islam, right? And that's how they took over Iran.
That's
a long time ago. That's how they took over Iran, right? 1979. They promised the university students that this is going to, you know, help us bring in the Ayatollah, and then we will have a beautiful socialist republic where everyone will get a fair salary and a car and meat, and everyone will have, right? And as happens every time socialism, which is communism, comes in, trust us, we just need to break a few eggs. It's going to be a really tasty omelet. But we never get there, right? They don't know how to create abundance and prosperity. They only know how to confiscate it and to consolidate power in the party. And those university students in Iran who helped that revolution, when they said, okay, well, the Ayatollah's in power now, we would like to also join the government. If they asked a second time, they got executed, you know? And that's what's happening around the world now. You mentioned, Annie, that you experienced New York under Mayor Giuliani, which was a really good in New York. He got elected after Dinkins. Remember, that was a disaster.
Well, you don't even want to know the nickname we had.
The malaise mayor, where everything was bad. Everything was depressing.
Oh, no. And the out-of-town Brown for police commissioner.
Yeah. And but the pendulum swung back. You know, and like America has traditionally been that way. Well, we always have what to complain about. So, you know, we'll complain against whoever's in power, and that will help the other party come into power. And as we seesaw back and forth, maybe things can move forward. So my optimistic prayer is that now, having seen just how bad Mamdani and socialism are, that New Yorkers will come to their senses and the next mayor will be, you know, much better. I pray that that will happen. I think Jews are certainly waking up. In our Orthodox Jewish community, we're politically very conservative, but kind of most New York Jews are liberal Democrats. And so since he was the Democrat candidate, they voted for him. But I think a lot of Jews are waking up to just how dangerous it is, just how bad and dangerous and threatening and disastrous he is. And I hope things will get better. But right now, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I've always asked, and my sergeant goes, talk to the rabbi. And the rabbi was standing there on the corner. And I asked her, at that point, Chuck Schumer, and I have another first name for him that rhymes with Chuck, which I'm sure you know. I'm not going to say it on there. And I said, you know, why are you supporting? Why are you telling your community to vote for this man when the man who is Jewish doesn't support Israel? You see, I'm raised Italian Roman Catholic, and my grandfather taught me to respect Israel and taught me why. And every Christian should do the same thing. And we do. So why is it that we support Israel and yet this is your homeland and you don't? He goes, Kendra, you don't understand. And I said, oh God, here we go. And then, that he threw in that I was aware of, that you females are too stupid to know better. But I just never understood that.
He's so gross, Chuck Schumer. I can't even, don't get me started.
So now you know the first name is perfect.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's fascinating to me. We're right today, right? So it's Friday, and tonight, President Trump has declared that this is a national observance of Shabbos and calling on Jewish Americans to keep Shabbos and to light candles and make a blessing on the wine and shut off their screens and have a time of peace and light and reflection. It's incredible. No world leader has ever done that before. I've certainly been doing my part to try and spread the word. And on my platform, Nina and I run a nonprofit Jewish wisdom platform called Accidental Talmudist. We have 1 million followers on Facebook, a few 100,000 more on Instagram and other platforms. We're saying Jews, who are not connected to Shabbos, this is the Shabbos you should connect. Keep Shabbos, turn it off. The Jews are meant to be a light unto the nations. And if we don't stand our post, it's bad for us and it's bad for the world. The Jews are the chosen people. That doesn't mean we're better. It doesn't mean we're entitled. It means that we were chosen for a certain mission. And that mission, we've had that mission for 3,000 years. God gave the 10 commandments into the world for everybody via the Jews. And so the Jews have to live by those commandments, and there's just too many Jews have become disconnected from the tradition, from Torah. And that makes us all vulnerable. And so we need Jews to stand their post, and the more Jews are doing that, the better. And it seems like so many Jews forget until the anti-Semitism raises its head, and the Jew hatred has never been louder in my lifetime than it is right now. But thank God we're blessed to have allies in this fight, folks like you. Thank you.
Matter of fact, when my grandfather passed away, we planted a tree in Israel.
Oh.
So I find that if I find someone that loses a child, I have a star named after them. So every time they look up at the sky, they know the spirit is there. But for someone older, I say it will be a tree that I plant. So someday someone's going to sit underneath it and see the plaque with the person's name and said, I sat underneath the tree of Felix Delavecchia. And his name is remembered.
Beautiful. Wow, that's beautiful.
That's how you do it, Annie. Good on you.
Well, I'm not a cold-hearted bitch, just people think.
Good on you. I like that phrase. That's Australian, right, Hannah? Good on you. I love that.
I don't know. That's what we say down south. Good on you. But yeah, they add mate to it, don't they? Yeah. So.
There you go.
Yeah, but we say bless your heart.
Bless your heart's a little condescending.
No, because whenever I had a friend of mine from Georgia, and every time she said bless your heart, I'd stand stock still. And she'd go, why are you standing stock? I says, waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been used so colloquially as a condescending thing that people don't say it if they actually mean it too, because they don't want to get confused. So.
Well, listen, I got this one little cartoon just for you, Sal, because we've got this whole big thing now with redistricting, and everyone's worrying about where the vote's going to go, who's going to get the vote. But I just could not resist this. My sister sent it to me, and she's married to a Baptist minister.
Okay.
All right, here comes the cartoon. Here we go. Mimi. I couldn't resist that. It took me 15 minutes to figure out how to upload it, but I uploaded it. I said, he's got to see this.
It was worth it.
That's there's an ancient teaching from our sages. You dig a pit for someone else.
Oh, we just lost you for a second.
That should be so.
Oh, you broke up a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was saying that we have a teaching from our sages that if you dig a pit for someone else, you will fall in it yourself. And hopefully that should happen. I mean, especially here in California, where we've had one party rule for so long, and it just, dragging California down in the worst way. This corruption that's being exposed now, the $100 billion they've spent on the bullet train from LA to San Francisco, which in the end is going to be a train from Bakersfield to Fresno. I mean, who needs that? It's ridiculous.
Single line will take you 6 hours to go when you can hop a plane and be there in less than an hour.
Mm.
Of course. It's just nonsense. It's all graft and grift and, it's corruption. It's absolutely corruption. That's what so much of it is about. Look at what was revealed in Minnesota, right? Wow. Taxpayers footing the bill for so much money going to the pockets of a few crooks. Yep. But hopefully this is being revealed now and we'll start to have a more efficient system. Please God.
Here's hoping.
Yeah, we're praying for that. California, you've got Steve Hilton running, who's looked like he's come ahead. And he came here legally. As a matter of fact, I interviewed him when he first came over.
Okay.
You also have the gentleman running in for Los Angeles mayor against,
Pratt against Karen Bass.
Oh, thank you. Yep. And he's been living out of a trailer on the property that burned down in the wildfires now 2 Januaries ago. That have none, I think 5 or 6 last I heard, have been rebuilt out of the thousands that have been decimated. Yeah. And they wanted to actually put in affordable housing for illegal immigrants on those properties. Isn't there something against that in the Constitution about taking someone's property without just reunification?
There's a couple lines on it.
Yeah. Just the Constitution doesn't matter in California. It doesn't apply.
No.
Yeah, and there's so many things we can say about that. Last time I visited California was still Ronald Reagan was just being elected governor. And it was
those were the days.
It was a beautiful, beautiful landscape. I mean, at that point, they were fighting the Delta smelt because they were saying we can't immigrate your crops because it was going to decimate the Delta smelt. And that was like just the beginning, just the tip of the iceberg to what they've now done to that beautiful state.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a little story that really captures how ridiculous California can be. Many, many years ago, I was just finishing up film school, and I was doing research for a script that I was writing. It was going to be basically the pot farmers against the coke dealers, kind of a crime drama. And it was going to be set in the wine country, either Sonoma or Napa Valley. The script was called Napa Red.
Camilla Harris? Oh, no, it's not. Who is it? Ilya Omar's wine. Who is it that has the wine?
They have a winery. Yeah, you're right. So I wanted to meet, people who had wineries, like just regular people who own a winery. Because not everything is like Gallo Brothers, that was from the 70s, they had massive wineries. But there's just like regular people, who sell their house and start small and try to build something up. And if they have the ability to produce good wine, they can succeed. I mean, this is America. It's an entrepreneurial country. And so there was this guy, his name was, I guess I can say his name, why not? His name was Fred Klein, and his wine has become very successful, but this is like 30 years ago. And when he was just starting out, or he'd been at it from, 5-10 years, something like that. So he bought a piece of land that was like flat at the bottom and then a hillside above it. And he started by growing his grapes on the hillside. The flat at the bottom was just nothing, it was like wasteland. And so as he was irrigating his grapes on the hillside, water would run down the hill, and a lot of that water collected on the flat area of his land that he was planning to start, growing the grapes there in later years. But because that water collected on the flat part of his land, birds came and started hanging out in this, newly created marsh that was only a marsh because he was irrigating the hillside above it. And California came in and said, this is protected wildlife reserve marshland. You can't plant grapes there.
You can't make this up.
Property. On his private property. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Did he end up winning?
He must have, or I guess he was successful enough on the hillside that he bought the neighboring hillsides. I don't know.
Yeah.
He has succeeded. But it's
they were
furious at that time. You know?
They tried this here in my state, South Carolina, that private water that was on your land, the EPA controlled. And it was the dumbest thing. We live on 1,000 islands. The area I am has 1,000 islands. There's water everywhere. And somewhere along the way, someone's going to have some sort of a pond nearby or on their property. I mean, just driving the 1 mile down my street, I see ponds on people's property. Don't tell me this is my property and the EPA has control over it. Most of these people manage their own stuff. They'll make sure the water is aerated and everything to keep the wildlife going. But you got to watch out for the alligators.
Yeah.
Just got to watch out for the alligators. But it's ridiculous that what our government has become, where we were people that had the right of property ownership, that was given to us, believe it or not, under King Harold when he codified English common law, and then reinforced with the Magna Carta, and then here in the United States was all property, just government can't touch it. It's yours. You actually own it. But not so.
I mean, this was a country. This is a country of self-starters, right? That's what America is all about. People come here often with nothing. They look around. What is a business that people need? Let me try that. I get a small loan, start a business, build it up. You know, that's what America is all about. And now you've got these people that it's like half the country's whiners. They're whiners. Like, well, that guy has more than me. It must be that he's ripping me off. So the government has to step in and take some of his stuff and give it to me. I mean, I'm sitting on my couch watching TV, but I deserve half his stuff. You know? And
or people are really mad at Nepo baby. That new term, Nepo baby. It's like, why should you be mad at someone because their parents were more successful than yours? Get off your ass and do that for your kid. You know, people, a sense of entitlement.
Well, listen, guys, we're down to our last minute. Sal, how can people find you?
Oh, they should see Guns N' Moses on Amazon Prime. They should get the book, my best-selling book, Let My People Laugh, Greatest Jewish Jokes of All Time, on Amazon. And if they'd like to, see the jokes or learn some Jewish wisdom, learn about what Shabbat is, learn some Torah, accidentaltalmudist.org, or just remember Accidental Talmudist. You can easily Google that. And we're just trying to put out positive, uplifting, educational, inspiring content every day. The movie's a lot of fun. It's not about, as Jack Warner said 100 years ago, you want to send a message, call Western Union. Movies should be entertaining, Jimmy Kimmel late night TV used to be about laughter, right? Now it's about clapter. We don't hold by that. You want to come to us to watch our movie, you should be entertained.
We got to get you back.
You should laugh.
Well, we got to get over onto that Kimmel and all that 8647. I had it down here to talk to you, but we ran out of time.
We'll do it another time.
All right, so God bless and thank you.
God bless. Thanks for having me.
Hannah, next week.
It was great.
Yeah, next week, though, it's not going to be a live broadcast. I'm going to let you know what we're going to do because I have to take my husband for surgery next Friday. So it will not be a live broadcast. We'll work on this one during the week.
Yeah.
And so until then, we'll say good night and God bless. We'll see you next Friday. Well, if not, see you Friday, but
we'll see you guys next Friday. Be there.